Boston Red Sox left in a really bad place if Alex Bregman leaves for free agency?
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part, it's all completely free. So make sure you tune in because Locked On is here for you every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the show. Red Sox offseason. We are here. This is the time of year where we're still watching playoff baseball, but we really wish the Red Sox were in it still. How stressful that wild card series was. Regardless, I still miss Red Sox baseball, and I still wish they were part of the action right now. But February will be here before we know it, in spring training, and then looking forward to opening day again. But there's a lot of question marks going into this offseason when it comes to this roster. Are people going to opt out? Are people going to opt in? Are the Red Sox going to make big trades to acquire players? And perhaps the biggest question that looms when it comes to the Red Sox offseason is Alex Bregman's future with the team. Is he going to stay in Boston? Is he going to try to pursue free agency and get more money, whether that's from the Red Sox or from somebody else? Lots of questions remain about Alex Bregman's contract situation. And while it goes without being said that he contributed on the field, he also contributed a lot more off the field. And the Red Sox would be in a very tough spot if Bregman opts out. Why? Because of his off-the-field leadership. He provided a lot of value for the young players on this team. Now, I've said it on the podcast before that it's disappointing how much his numbers regressed since he came back from his injury compared to what he was doing from a productivity standpoint earlier on in the season prior to getting hurt. So there's definitely a difference there between his pre-injury performance and his post-injury performance, which, yes, that makes it a little bit more difficult for people to be on board with Alex Bregman coming back. But the off-the-field value that Alex Bregman provides is really difficult to replace. And it's not easy to just go and find somebody to replace that type of value. Now, with Alex Bregman, in terms of his on-the-field numbers this year, he batted .273 with a .360 on-base percentage and .462 slugging with 18 home runs, 62 RBIs, and a 3.5 wins above replacement as one of the team's 3 all-star representatives. So obviously that's not bad numbers that he put up on the field, but helping the team off the field, frequently giving younger teammates advice and batting tips, that's all stuff that you can't really easily replace. The 31-year-old's leadership and presence are especially valuable for this young roster that this team has because they just don't have many veterans here. So the more veterans that you have to mix with the young players, the better off you are. So the Red Sox are in a place now where they would be really missing a big piece if they were to not be able to retain him. And the Red Sox held their end-of-season press conference yesterday, and Craig Breslow acknowledged this. It seems like he's well aware of his importance to the team and his value to the organization as a whole. He said, "I will not miss an opportunity to talk about his contributions on the field, in the clubhouse, to the coaching staff, to the front office. Every conversation we've had, I learned something. I think that impact and influence have rubbed off on his teammates, and by all accounts, he's loved his time in Boston as well." So that very clearly shows that Breslow knows how valuable Alex Bregman was to this team, and he's definitely, hopefully, not taking that lightly. Breslow declined to comment on any ongoing negotiations with Bregman, but he did continue to praise the all-star third baseman calling him a great player, a proven winner, a strong defender, someone who fits this park really well in our roster. So Breslow didn't go into detail on where they're exactly at with negotiations with Bregman, but he knows that he provides a lot of value, and that's something that hopefully he keeps in mind this offseason, because the Red Sox are really going to have to push if they want to bring him back. People think there's a chance that he opts in because of the fact that he struggled post-injury. I don't necessarily think that's as much of a likelihood as people think. I definitely think it could happen, but also there's a chance that he opts out and hits free agency despite that, because other teams know the impact he had on the young players on this roster and that his value rubbed off a lot on them. So other clubhouses might want that. So there is definitely a lot of uncertainty here. He sported an OPS of over 900 before his May 23rd injury. That ultimately was what earned him one of the 3 All-Star selections. His value on a 3-year, $120 million contract spanned far beyond the numbers at third base, because Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer, and Kristian Campbell, especially the Red Sox top prospects, he took those guys immediately under his wing in spring training, and he dug into matchups to prepare Red Sox pitchers to attack on the mound. So his baseball mind served nearly as much as his player production. That's the part that people aren't recognizing as much, because obviously the on the field stuff and how you perform is important, but it's just as important having those leaders in the clubhouse, and that's not something you can just easily replace. Bregman wanted to be here. He was excited about working with the young players here, and that's something that I'm hoping holds out hope here, that he remembers how strong of a bond he created with some of these guys, and that makes him want to come back to Boston for the 2026 season. He has 2 opt-out clauses in his contract, one after this season and then one after next season. He has until 5 days following the conclusion of the World Series to decide his choice, and the Red Sox will definitely have work to do to retain him. That has to be a priority, and definitely the Red Sox leadership figures understand it for sure, because Breslow also said, obviously, Alex has the right that's structured in his contract to opt out. He's going to do what's best for his family. So he realizes that. He knows it's not a guarantee. He said, we'll let that play out, but the significance would be having a great player, a proven winner, a strong defender that fits us really well on our roster. So he has lots of good things to say about Alex Bregman, and he wasn't backing down on saying how valuable he is. So I'm hoping that Breslow feels strongly enough about that to where he says, yeah, we need to keep this guy on our roster 100%. He earned his 9th consecutive trip to the postseason as the Red Sox ended a 4-year playoff drought. So that alone, him going to 9 consecutive playoffs, is very valuable for a young team with a lot of the players on the roster having 0 playoff experience at all. So him being there and being able to lead these guys and get them through the pressure that comes with playing postseason baseball, that also is incredibly valuable, because he knows what it's like to play on the biggest of stages. And that was something that these young players really could take away from this season, was what they learned from him in that regard. He also delivered a key insurance run in the Red Sox Game 1 win of the Wild Card Series against the Yankees. And then unfortunately, the Yankees won the next 2. So that was disappointing. But it's a huge question going into this offseason. And if the Red Sox are unable to retain Alex Bregman, then there are some concerns, because then they have to decide, do they trust Marcelo Meyer to be their everyday third baseman? And if that's the case, great. And if not, then they have to figure out how they're going to move some pieces around to figure out how to address the third base situation to make it as competitive as it can be. For a team that made the playoffs in 2025, you want to continue to grow on that. You now want to go into this offseason with the mindset of, okay, we made the playoffs. Now let's continue to expand on that and continue to get guys on this team who we can surround our young talent with, that's going to help take us to the next level, which is hopefully winning a World Series. And Alex Bregman is somebody who makes that type of difference of taking your team to the next level. Yes, we can rag on his lack of productivity on the field in the second half of the season, but if he's gone, who else do they have in that clubhouse besides Trevor Story? and Aroldis Chapman for the pitchers, that truly is an experienced veteran that can help lead them through those tough times throughout the course of a season. When a player isn't hitting well and they go through a rough streak, Alex Bregman can be there by their side to change their mindset and say, you can turn this around at any time. It's a long season. They need somebody to say that to them. And because they have Alex Bregman here, he was able to be that go-to guy. And Trevor Story also served as a good leader for this team, but he doesn't have the championship experience that Bregman has. Bregman going all the way is something that you can't say about nearly every player on this roster. Dustin May obviously is a World Series champion too, but his situation's under question right now as well. So it's very crucial that they retain Alex Bregman, because the Red Sox won't have that true veteran experienced leader if they lose him. And it could really create a negative impact on the young players when it comes to their confidence. So hopefully he makes the decision of opting in, or if he opts out, that the Red Sox go after him hard and offer him lots of money to return to Boston. But coming up, another player who people were hoping to see more of this year was Kristian Campbell. What's his fate like with the Boston Red Sox? Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. It really helps you maximize your investments and increase your savings rate, because it's helping you to keep track of what you're actually spending money on. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. It truly saved my life, and it can for you too. So unfortunately, the Red Sox season didn't end the way that we wanted it to, but there's still lots to be proud of from this season and lots to look ahead on. Questions heading into the offseason, who's going to stay, who's going to go, how the Red Sox are going to handle certain situations. And one player who has been interesting from the 2025 season is Kristian Campbell. There was so much hype surrounding Kristian Campbell going into this year. He earned a spot on the opening day roster to play second base, and he hit really well in the month of April, and people were super excited about him being part of the future of this team. And then after the month of April, he really took a decline at the plate and started to struggle a lot. So because of all of that, then he ended up in a place where he wasn't able to figure it out. And the Red Sox were trying to be patient with him and get him more and more reps, but things just were not going well for him offensively. So they sent him back down to AAA Worcester to try to gain his confidence back and work on things down there. And he ended up ultimately staying down there for the rest of the season. And people thought there was a chance that he would make the Red Sox postseason roster, because he did hit well in AAA in 2025. But the thing is, the Red Sox are being very careful with their top prospects. When it comes to guys like Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer, and Kristian Campbell, they are not willing to take chances and risk ruining their future. They have spent the last few years wanting to build around these guys. And the thing is, now that they have the opportunity to finally build around these guys, they don't want to risk those guys being put in a vulnerable spot to where they're not able to contribute at a high level because their confidence is at an all-time low. So the Red Sox made the right decision at the time to send Kristian Campbell down to AAA. But now the question becomes, what happens with him going into 2026? Because now you're looking at an infield that's up in the air between Alex Bregman and Trevor Story, who both have opts out this year and both could opt out. Now you're looking at unknowns at third base and shortstop. The second base situation is pretty unclear right now as it is. If both Alex Bregman and Trevor Story decide to opt in, then it's looking like Marcelo Meyer could likely be the opening day second baseman, because it's not really a defined thing. Then you look at first base, which there are also question marks about. So where does Kristian Campbell fit in? Could he play in the outfield? Do the Red Sox decide to trade a couple outfielders and put Kristian Campbell there? because he has experience both playing as an infielder and an outfielder. So there are lots of unknowns when it comes to Kristian Campbell. They had him take a lot of reps at first base in Worcester and was playing first base in games there, so that if the Red Sox were to throw him back in, first base is an option for a position that he could play. But the question really does become, do the Red Sox still see him as part of that future of this franchise, and where does he play if so? Because Craig Breslow in his press conference addressed it, because it's been a question for a while now. He's one of the biggest variables when it comes to this offseason, because there could be a lot of moving around to make room for him again. He began the season as an AL Rookie of the Year contender, but then when he got demoted in June, that ended up going out the window. The 23-year-old played multiple different positions in AAA while also trying to search for a path back to Boston. And I spoke with him in AAA Worcester, and the biggest thing that he said to me that he was working on was chasing and just not swinging at unnatural pitches to try to force things, just trying to find his swing again and not be late on things as well. So mechanically, there were a couple of things he was trying to adjust, and he really was hitting well at the AAA level. So people were hoping to see him get another shot. It's still unclear how exactly he'll factor into the team's 2026 plans, but Breslow endorsed him as an essential part of the team's future, just not committing to a specific role. Craig Breslow said Kristian learned a lot about himself. We learned a lot about him. He's a tireless worker, and we saw that from spring training through his time in the big leagues when he was AL Rookie of the Month in April to when he was struggling and sent down. I've got a ton of confidence both in the work he's going to commit to this offseason and what he's going to mean to this organization. But I don't think it makes a ton of sense to try to pin him to a role outside of saying he's going to feel the support of the entire organization, and we know what he's capable of. So essentially, that's kind of a non-answer. He raved about Kristian Campbell and his work ethic and said he has confidence in him putting in the work in the offseason and continuing to develop at a high level and what he's going to mean in the future. But he doesn't want to necessarily put that kind of pressure on him to say, yeah, we expect him to come out there and be our opening day second baseman or our opening day first baseman. I don't think he wants to overwhelm him and get in his head about these things. So therefore, Breslow is saying, okay, we're not going to commit to anything like that with him right now and kind of just see how he continues to develop throughout the offseason. 6 months ago, the Red Sox gave him an 8-year, $60 million contract extension after he made the opening day roster. And then he posted a 902 OPS through April, but then batted just 159 with a 243 on base percentage and 222 slugging in his subsequent 140 plate appearances before then getting sent down to the minors. He likely would have rejoined the Red Sox eventually if offense was the organization's only concern with him. Although he hit just 8 home runs with a 26.3% strikeout rate in 73 games with the Woo Sox, he eventually found his groove to notch a 383 on base percentage. So that's why people thought there was a chance he would get called back up, because he was showing improvement on offense. But he was a subpar fielder in the majors, registering minus 16 defensive runs saved at second base. So that's never a good thing if you're in the negatives, basically meaning you're not really saving any defensive runs. He then pivoted to first base in Worcester before taking more outfield reps later in the season. So the Red Sox are definitely trying to leverage and taking advantage of the fact that he is a multi-skilled player and that he's mobile and diverse and that he could be used both in the infield and in the outfield, so that he could maybe end up being used not necessarily as an everyday player if the Red Sox don't feel confident enough doing that right now, but he could be used in more of a utility role, playing where it's needed at the time, because they figured since he was already going to be down in Worcester that they might as well have him focus on something that could help benefit the team. And while doing so, he could continue to develop his skills in other positions. So that's why he was taking reps at first base, second base, and in the outfield in Worcester. He may not start the 2026 season with a set position, so he'll ultimately need to earn his way back into the lineup with his bat, because if the Red Sox are concerned about his defense longer term, that's definitely an issue too, because the problem with that is that it's going to be really hard for the Red Sox to justify having him as a regular starter in this lineup, because it doesn't really make sense to have him DH. The Red Sox have options there, especially as long as they hang on to Yoshida. That's the position he's going to play. So when it comes to Campbell, the question is truly going to be, what position makes the most sense for him to play when he does come up, if he starts the season on the opening day roster or what have you. But he's going to have to show in the offseason that he's capable of doing a little bit more defensively, because we saw what happened when it came to Yoshida. They had him playing defense in the outfield early on when he first came to Boston, but then because of the fact that his defense was a liability, they pulled that role away from him and made him more of a designated hitter. And now with Kristian Campbell, they could end up giving him similar treatment if they don't feel like his defense is up to par with what they want. And that's the biggest reason why he stayed in AAA the rest of the season. And it's also the biggest reason why Craig Breslow didn't want to say anything for certainty when it comes to Kristian Campbell and where he's going to play in 2026, because it's the type of situation where there's still a lot of unknowns there. And the Red Sox really need to figure out where they see him fitting in. So the reality at the end of the day is there a spot for Kristian Campbell on the 2026 opening day roster? Possibly, maybe not. They don't want to commit to that yet or put any pressure on him. They just want him to continue taking reps in all of those necessary positions. But there could be a path for him to get back up to the majors to start the season, especially with the unknowns at certain positions right now. So if he really has a big offseason and he goes into spring training and he impresses the Red Sox in all facets of his game, then there definitely is a shot that he gets the chance to go and contribute at the major league level this upcoming season. So it'll be interesting to see how the Red Sox handle that situation, and hopefully he does improve, because there's definitely high hopes when it comes to Kristian Campbell and how he's going to fit with this organization moving forward, because he obviously has been a top Red Sox prospect for a reason, and they gave him this big contract extension, so they want him to work out. So hopefully this offseason he makes a splash to the point where the Red Sox feel confident enough to put him on the major league roster to start the season. One position we could see Kristian Campbell play if he does come into the season starting in the majors is first base, because the Red Sox first base situation is still unknown, and I'm going to be discussing that a little bit next. If you're ever looking to score last-minute tickets to an event, whether that's a sporting event, a comedy show, a musical, any sort of live event, Gametime 100% is the place for you. I love it because it's an app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I love zone deals too. Pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Gametime is absolutely 100% the place for you. I'm a huge fan of it. I literally don't use any other ticketing vendor because it's cheaper than other ticketing vendors. It makes sure you have a good experience, and it guarantees that you're going to have your tickets right on time for your event, even if you purchase them last minute. So definitely check out Gametime today. Well, we have reached that time of year where people are contemplating the Red Sox roster for the 2026 season, and there are definitely question marks when it comes to this roster heading into 2026, and what could look a lot different, what's going to stay the same, because the Red Sox definitely need to have a little bit of a different look to this roster if they want to be a World Series contender in 2026. And one player who contributed this year was rookie catcher Carlos Narvaez. He was somebody who the Red Sox acquired via trade in the offseason, And he ended up performing really well in the first half of the season at the plate, but then he struggled a lot in the second half, and he did struggle behind the plate. But he's a guy who the Red Sox are really looking forward to seeing, and they trust that he's going to continue to develop and continue to grow. But it was announced on Monday that he is set to get meniscus surgery this week. Arthroscopic surgery that's essentially going to repair the meniscus in his left knee. He played through a damaged meniscus for much of the second half of the regular season and will have a cleanup procedure on the knee. And then it's considered a minor surgery, so it's not expected to affect his availability for the start of spring training. So that's good news because it ensures that the Red Sox aren't really concerned about it long term. After slashing 273 with a 347 on base percentage and 439 slugging in the first half, he hit only 187 with a 233 on base percentage and 387 slugging after the All-Star break, suggesting that the knee issue hampered his offensive production. He should enter the 2026 campaign at the top of the catcher depth chart for the Red Sox, though, so it's good that it's not something they need to be concerned about long term. But one player that they are still concerned about is Kristian Campbell. And when asked about him, Craig Breslow did not commit to him as the opening day first baseman in 2026. He suffered a season-ending patellar tendon injury on May 2nd that required surgery. Breslow said, I don't think it makes a ton of sense on October 6th to say someone is or isn't our first baseman, and we'll see how things play out. Unfortunately, Tristan has missed a significant amount of time over the last 2 years. We've also seen what he's capable of doing when he's healthy. The 25-year-old Casas struggled in 29 games during 2025 before his injury, going 18 for 99, which is a .182 batting average. He missed 98 games in 2024, spending from April 21st to August 16th on the injured list due to a torn cartilage in the rib cage on his right side. Breslow said, would we look for more production out of first base, more production out of second base? I think the answer is, of course. Exactly what that looks like, we're going to figure out through the course of the offseason. Breslow did say Casas is doing really well with his recovery, but he wouldn't commit to him being fully recovered by the start of 2026. He said he's in here every day rehabbing, just kind of watching the progress from the initial surgery to where he is now. He's moving around really well, load bearing, squatting. So we anticipate a full recovery, but I'm hesitant to put a timeline on that just because with any of these injuries, you want to make sure that you're not coming too far out front. The Red Sox will need to add power this offseason after they were 15th in the majors in home runs this season with 186 and 27th during the second half, which is 64. There's 16 home runs from the first base position, ranked 22nd in the big leagues. So that's definitely a position they're going to look to get more power out of. Breslow said we'll be open to all of those things. We faced some significant injuries during the course of the season and to guys that have shown that they can get the ball out of the ballpark, whether that was in the big leagues or internally. And so I think we'll actively look to improve the roster. That means we have to be willing to look in free agency, trade, and internally. So essentially, he is saying they are going to look on the first base market. He didn't say directly, we want to trade Tristan Casas. By no means was that something that they were implying, or we don't believe in Tristan Casas. It was more having to do with the uncertainty of his injury and whether he'd be healthy enough to start the 2026 season. So he was saying we are going to look for options. Now, in terms of notable free agents at the first base position for 2026, the most notable is Pete Alonso. This is a player who could be a great fit in Boston. I'm sure the Mets will try to re-sign him too, but this is a player that fits the mold for what the Red Sox are looking for. He would provide a lot of pop in the lineup and would provide some power that the Red Sox are missing in their lineup. And he is a player who can give the Red Sox a consistent first baseman for the course of the season, especially if Casas does need to be out for an extended period of time going into 2026. They don't need to just pull somebody that could survive at first base, but isn't actually giving them a lot of production there. Pete Alonso is somebody who could 100% give them the production there as well. So that's why he's an exciting option. There are a couple notable free agent first baseman for 2026 that they could also look at. Josh Naylor is a free agent as well. So that's another option to look at. This is a guy I was hoping the Red Sox would pursue at the trade deadline. They ended up deciding not to do that, but they have another opportunity now. Rhys Hoskins, a potential free agent option, but overcoming injury-related issues is definitely a concern for him. Whether he can stay healthy or not, I don't know if the Red Sox would want to go for that or not. Luis Arias, whose free agency value will be tied to his exceptional ability to chase batting titles. So these are good options. These are players that the Red Sox should 100% be going after and making phone calls about. Because if you can get a solid first baseman in there who can compensate not only for Casas' injury, but can also be a little bit more productive than what we saw from Casas when he was healthy prior to that injury at the beginning of May, then you're looking at a big boost to the lineup right there. And the biggest takeaway from Craig Breslow's press conference that I got was that he's not shying away from trying to add to the roster. Now, take that with a grain of salt because we saw what he did at the trade deadline, and it was really underwhelming compared to what it could have been. But he did have a big offseason last year, so I'd like to believe that he could repeat that same thing going into 2026 and that he has a big offseason and adds a couple big players to this team to help make them more of a longer-term contender. I totally could see that happening, and hopefully it does happen because, quite frankly, the Red Sox need it. Now that they made the playoffs again, work this roster, add pieces, and go fight for a World Series in 2026 because that would be so fun to watch as a Red Sox fan. But I do appreciate you always tuning in to Locked On Red Sox and making it your first listen of every single day. For your second listen, make sure to check out Locked On MLB Game Night, which is our local Locked On analysis going on every game, every night until a World Series champion is crowned. So our hosts and analysts will give their best analysis on all of these games on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. That show is great. Definitely check it out next. And like I always say, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.